swaths. In Austin, I saw pause. My eyes crawled to a table. Paralyzed by pairwise dice, then attend to this heaven slice of an angel wrapped in skin. Throw dice and rolls of life. Love deprived, look at her vibe. What's the meaning of life? One subjective paradise. Crystal chandeliers, moments reflected. Often mirrors appear clear, grinning from ear to ear. Craving and raiment and grain, rekindle the flame. Closer she draws near. Stay there, remove your underwear, shove it somewhere over there. In paradise, we know our purpose. In paradise, we know what our worth is. In paradise, we manifest dreams. In paradise, truth is what you conceive.
Boom. Yes, it is. The truth is what you can see. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Unpopular Hour. Of course, I'm your host, Matt Clark, and it is Wednesday, the day before everything tunes up here. Let me see, why is that not popping up here? I'm having all kinds of issues today. I don't know what it is. I'm having issues today. Okay, that should work. Okay. I'm having all kind of issues. Yes, my hair is all pulled back. Don't say anything about my hair being pulled back, but yes, I've got it pulled back today because the fro is time for it to get braided this week before. I'm going to try to do it on Friday. It's my plan to do it on Friday right before we do the Thunder, or right before the playoffs start, not the playoffs, but right before Game 4. Or Game 1, actually. What am I talking about, Game 4? Before Game 1. Sorry, guys. I'm a little loopy today. I don't know what my problem is, but today is just one of those days I'm a little bit loopy. Hope everybody else is going good. Like I said, tomorrow is Game 1. Thunder Pacers final NBA Finals. Looking forward to watching it and seeing what's going to happen with the Thunder. Of course, I will be wearing my Thunderalls tomorrow. Because of the simple fact that why? I wear them and we are undefeated thus far, knock on wood, at home when I'm wearing those. So Game 1 is tomorrow, and so I'm excited about that, about watching it and watching the Thunder go ahead and take care of business. Now, the big issue is that the Pacers, they beat Milwaukee, Game 1. They beat Cleveland, Game 1. They beat the Knicks, Game 1. Those are the issues that we have to be concerned about, okay? And because they did now, I will say this. I don't know if this is a good sign or a bad sign, the fact that they did not get in. They had to be delayed yesterday coming into Oklahoma City yesterday because, as you know, the bad weather was yesterday. And my baby boy, I spent time with him because he was all freaked out. And the other night I was not here. And he freaks out with storms, and so I came home, and he was stuck underneath my bed. Now my big boy is a 90-pound pit bull, okay, and he's a big boy, and the storms freaked him out so much that he crawled underneath the bed and he got stuck. And so when I came home, I'm used to him meeting me at the door, and I'm like, "Where is he? Where is he? Where is he?" I'm screaming. I can hear this whine. And I go into my bedroom, and he is stuck underneath the bed, which is funny now, but it wasn't funny to him because I don't know how long he had been stuck underneath there. And of course, I had to raise up the bed for him to get his big butt out of there. And then, of course, got all the love. So yesterday, I spent time with him. I had to be with him yesterday, so he would be more comfortable. But anyway, the Pacers playing was delayed. So the question is that a sign, good sign, bad sign? And I think it's a good sign because of the simple fact that to me, I look at it, that's their delay in them winning the chip. Their delay in them bringing home the championship. That's what I believe. That's how I'm going to look at it as. A delay sign for them is you will be delayed again in winning the chip. Because Indiana has not won a chip and the Thunder have not won a chip. So this is going to be the first time that either team has had a chance to win, or not had a chance, but the first time that either team will be able to win a chip if that comes forward. Because remember, the Pacers played the Lakers, I think it was 2001, when they played the Lakers, and of course Shaq fouls out, And then Kobe turns around and tells Shaq, "Hey, I got you, big fella." And of course, Kobe did his work, and the Lakers beat the Pacers. So it's going to be interesting in that. Now, that being said, here to me, the similarities between the Thunder and the Pacers are really, really simple. The Thunder and the Pacers both have good benches, pretty deep. They're 8, 9, 10 deep. The difference being between the benches is the Pacers bench is more of a scoring bench. The Thunder bench is more of a combination. We have players who can score, but we have players who play defense, most importantly. So it would be Pacers more of a scoring, Thunder more defense than scoring. Because remember, you come off the bench with Caruso, with Kaysen. Now, both of those can shoot threes. Both of them can score, but for the most part, they're there for defense. Then you got Wiggins. What is he? He's defensive minded, but he can also shoot the three. So that's another defensive guy. That's a scorer. Then you got, after that, you've got K. Rich if he plans to play. And I think K. Rich will have more playing time than Jay will, because of the simple fact that it's about matchups. And Jay Will, we don't need three center. I mean, there's Miles Turner. Now, here's the difference. Miles Turner won't have to necessarily come out and guard Ihart, because Ihart likes to run the offense from the three-point line, but he's not a three-point threat. So Miles Turner doesn't have to come out on him. He can stay back. Whereas with Jay Will and Chet, they both can shoot the three. So that's the advantage with playing a Jay Will more in this series if you want to do that. But to me, I don't really worry about that so much, because K. Rich is a better shooter than Jay Will is. So I would rather have K. Rich in there simply because of that. Defensively, you don't have to worry about big so much with them. We pretty much match up well with them because they've got him and they've got Toppin. So, height-wise and all that in Siakam, we're all matched up when it comes to that. But when you look at the benches, like I said, and you look and you go down, that's where we separate. Because defensively, their bench doesn't really affect us that much defensively or affect our offense. But our defense is going to affect their offense. But on the flip side of that, we can also score. So if our defense affects their offense, which I believe it will, then that's going to be the difference between the two benches. But don't get no mistake. The way that the Thunder play, the way that we're going to guard Halliburton, and Halliburton is going to look to penetrate and hit the ball, hit the wide open wing. Now, here's where the Thunder excel at. And then this is going to be possibly I don't necessarily want to say determining factor, but it's going to be a huge factor. Because when the Thunder come out to get that first guy and the ball goes to the second guy, that's going to be a determining factor to me, because it's not going to be the person that they first want to shoot the ball for Indiana. It's going to be the guy that shoots the next guy. And with their bench shooting, damn near 50% from the field, from three, in the bench, they have been the best three-point shooting team in the playoffs. So with their bench being able to do that, that's going to be, to me, the determining factor. How good do they hit the threes? Now, remember, in the Minnesota series against the Thunder, the first two games, God, how many wide-open threes did they have? I mean, they missed over and over and over and over and over. And in game three, that all changed. So, to me, I'm worried about that, in the fact that we give up a lot of threes, which killed us against Dallas. We give up a lot of threes to protect the paint. And then we're like, okay, you got to prove that we can make them. Well, if they're making them, then that's going to make it tough on us, because we're not necessarily that great of a three-point shooting team in the playoffs. Now, we were during the season. We're pretty good in the season. But in the playoffs, we're not necessarily that great of a three-point shooting team. So what does that really matter? What does that matter? If they can get some threes and they knock down some threes on the bench, then all of a sudden their bench players get some confidence. If their bench players get confidence, then how does that affect the Thunder? Well, that affects the Thunder for one simple fact. It affects the Thunder because then the Thunder have to say, okay, here they are. They're knocking down shots. Okay, we're going to have to defend them more man up to man up, which we can do. And remember, we're number one in defending the three-point shot. And like I said, Minnesota, they got a lot of wide open shots that they just missed. I mean, wide open shots that they missed over and over and over from the three-point line. Now, that being said, bench players play better at home than they do on the road. Not necessarily the case in Indiana. The Pacers bench players play great against what? Milwaukee. They played great against Cleveland. They played great against the Knicks. and knocking down shots. They had an advantage against Milwaukee. Dame was hurt. They had an advantage against Cleveland. Cleveland was hurt. They had an advantage against the Knicks because the Knicks gave away game one. And I can promise you, Pacers fans, if the Thunder are up 9 with a minute to go, we're not giving up the series. We're not giving up a game. Now, our coach might make some mistakes, but as far as us turning the ball over, missing free throw, that's not going to happen. Now, with the coach fouling and doing some stuff, that can happen because it did in game one against the Nuggets. So to me, that's where the bench part comes into play. Can we keep their bench from scoring and knocking down threes and gaining confidence? To me, that's a huge thing. Now, matchups. We talked about this the other day. You've got Hallie and you've got Siakam. You've got SGA, Chet, J-Dub. We have 3, they have 2. Now, to me, what does that mean necessarily for the Thunder? I don't care what the hell Indiana does. If Chet and J-Dub are rolling with SGA rolling, you're not going to beat us. You're just not. You're just not going to beat us because the thing is this: teams that play up tempo like Indiana does, the Pacers do, they tend to turn the ball over a lot more than a team that's more conservative with the basketball. We're not going to turn the ball over because we're number one in we're number one in the NBA as far as taking care of the basketball. Offensively, we don't have a lot of turnovers, but we're also number one in turning the opposing team over. And teams that play at a quick pace and high pace tend to turn the ball over. Now, here's where the difference comes. The difference comes is that the Thunder thrive in the most 12-2 runs, 14-3 runs, 17-1 runs, 20-4 runs. We're number one when it comes to that. And they either put us back in games or they separate us from other teams. That's what they do. And they usually make that run with SGA, Kaysen, Caruso, Wiggins, and iHeart, J. Will, or K. Rich when he goes small lineup. That's when you make that run 90% of the time. So when you make that run because you're turning it over because we lead the league again in what? Deflections. That's Caruso, that's Kaysen, that's Dort. Now, Dort may be the one that's going to play a lot more than Wiggins does because Wiggins has been relegated to the bench more because to me, Dagnall, the worst thing he could have did was giving Wiggins the ability to think he's a scorer because then he'd stop playing defense the way he had been for the last 4 years, and now he turns into a scorer. Now, the flip side of that is now you've made him much more desirable as a trade piece because now teams can think, oh, this guy can play defense, but he can score as well. So now you made him more of a trade piece to get you something back. So that's the advantage of that. The disadvantage is your lockdown guy that you had when you had that group of players together, that no longer exists. So you have to play Dort more like that. So with the fast-paced team, with us getting our hands on the ball, with Caruso, with Dort, with Kaysen, those 3 are in the top 5 as far as deflections. Then you got SGA with long arms. You got J-Dub with long arms. They're going to get their hands on balls because the one thing we are is we're positioned defensively to do that. And what happens with turnovers? Turnovers equal transitional baskets, which equal flow of the game. That's where the Thunder separate themselves from other teams because of those factors. Now, that being said, you've got Halliburton, who leads the league in assist to turnover ratios. He don't turn the ball over. Now, granted, that being said, he has to face Dort, he has to face Caruso, he has to face Kaysen, he has to face J-Dub, and he has to face SGA. That's who he has to face when he's doing switching roles. And then, hey, it's no easy task trying to get around iHeart. It's not an easy round, and iHeart's already played against him for a couple of years. So when he was at New York, so he already knows how he is. Then it's not an easy task trying to get around Chet. And then we go small lineup. You're trying to get around K. Rich. No, it's not happening. Now, that being said, iHeart and J. Will, if J. Will plays, those are his best 2 options to get around the screen and roll with Miles Turner, the pick and roll. But the Thunder do a fantastic job of getting up and over the screen, the pick and roll. They don't necessarily go under that much. They go over the top. And the pick defender does a great job of stepping back and then coming back. So he helps and then he recovers. And then the defensive player on the other side comes back on the backside to help in case there's a try of a lob or whatever. So the rotation defense is fantastic for the Thunder. So that being said, I'm not necessarily worried about Halliburton turning the ball over, but what about J.J. McConnell or T.J. McConnell? What about Nembhard? What about those guys? Toppin, what about those guys? Those are the guys that I'm talking about, that the Thunder can get them going faster with the defensive pressure that they're not accustomed to. They're not accustomed to that because that's not how Milwaukee plays. They're not accustomed to that. The Knicks, more or less, were more of that than any other team. But the Knicks didn't consistently do it the way that the Thunder will. The Thunder are relentless. It's not going to let up. Now, Siakam. And a lot of people believe Siakam is going to be the difference in that. You got Halliburton, Hallie, who's going to take care of the basketball for consistent turnover. And then you got Siakam, who is already have a chip. He's already played for the Toronto Raptors. Now, to me, I'm going to put an asterisk by there because without Klay Thompson, without Kevin Durant, you can beat the Warriors. With those two, I don't give a shit who you had, Toronto. You're going to get swept. You're not beating KD. You're not beating the Warriors with KD and Steph and Klay and Draymond. And I think Iguodala was still playing. You're not beating them. So everything fell into your lap. Like I believe this year has fallen into the Oklahoma City Thunder lap and possibly the Indiana Pacers lap. But I think it's fallen closer into the Thunder's lap because no Boston, no Cleveland. By the way, 29-1 against the East, and the only team to beat the Thunder were the Cleveland Cavaliers in the East. Okay? So it's fallen more into the Thunder's hands than it has anybody else's to win a chip than Indiana's. But Siakam is a veteran. He's used to it, and he's going to come out, and I think Siakam is going to do what he does. Now, I think J-Dub is going to be guarding him more. And then when you switch off, and then you've got Dort guarding him, and then you've got Cason, or Caruso guarding him, and you've got Cason and coming out and guarding Hallie, or you got Caruso, or you got Dort, however you want to look at it. Because when you have SGA, Dort, Cason, Caruso, all four of them on the court, along with Chet if you want to go big, then Indiana's got some issues. Because now who the hell are you going to guard? I mean, how are you going to score? How are you going to score? Because if you have Dort on Siakam, you have Cason, which I would think you're going to have Caruso on him. Then you got Cason or you got Caruso on Hallie. And you got one or the other, whoever you want to choose to get on Nembhard. You got the other one on Walker. I mean, who are you going to? How are you going to score? That's why a lot of people believe the Thunder are minus 700 to win or whatever the thing or something crazy. But those are differences on that side of the basketball. Now for the Thunder side, SGA, Chet, J-Dub. SGA is going to do what SGA does. And if the whole thing is I hate about being 7 days of rest. And like I said, when we were playing Minnesota, when you have a young team like us, you chomping at the bit, you don't need a layoff because it took us a while to get in the Denver series. And I said the longer the Denver series goes, the better for the Thunder in the future. Because once we start rolling, Game 5, now we didn't show up at Gala Game 6. But you can see the difference. Games 4, Games 5, Game 6, Game 7, we're a different team. And in Game 7, it showed up. And then that translated right on into the gentleman's sweep of the Minnesota Timberwolves. And then we took the time off, and that's the thing that bothered me. That being said, however, I think this team is, if you're going to beat us, here's the first game and the first opportunity, you're going to have to do it. And like I said, Indiana has beaten Milwaukee, Cleveland, and the Knicks first game. So they got us now. What is SGA going to do? If there's no rust, which I think there's going to be somewhat of a rust on him, I just do. I believe we're going to be a little bit rusty. I think we're going to be very anxious, but with the crowd going crazy, I think that's going to help lift the team up. So you got that going for the Thunder, okay? So you got that going for the Thunder, which is going to make a huge difference in what we are able to do, what we are able to accomplish offensively. Because we're going to struggle, but that crowd just lifting you up. And then we know we're going to go on a 12-2 run or 14-1 run. We know that we're going to do that because that's what we are, because defensively we know we're going to do that. Then all of a sudden SGA gets rolling. And once SGA starts rolling, then where everybody else, as I said many times, they excel. Once the team excels, then here comes J-Dub slashing. Here comes Chet knocking down threes, doing a little slashing the basket. Then here comes Kason knocking down three. Here comes Caruso knocking down a three or getting a defensive turnover. Those are the things that the Thunder do. Gets us into a flow, gets us into a rhythm. And once we get into a rhythm, you're not stopping us. But as I said, the difference between Hallie and Siakam versus SGA, Chet, and J-Dub is really simple. If those two are rolling, they're going to be hard. They're going to be formidable, no question. But if our big three get rolling, you're not going to beat us. Because if those three are rolling, then so is Kason, so is Caruso, so is Wiggins, so is Dort, so is Chet. So is Ihart and his floaters. And isn't it so nice that you don't have to listen to the Thunder TV and hear about a push shot? You haven't heard that all since the playoffs, right? Because there's no such thing. Professional people understand the difference between the two. You haven't heard anybody say anything about a push shot since you don't have to listen to that nonsense because of our announcers. You don't have to hear it anymore because there's no such thing. Now you got professional people who understand the game, who understand what shots are, and they can relate and go, no, this is what we're doing. So that's the difference on what the Thunder are bringing. Hold on, I'm ordering my T-shirts. Yes. So anyway, that's what the Thunder bring. Okay, that's what the Thunder bring to. That's what the things that he can do. Okay, that's what the Thunder do. Once they start rolling, once we start doing our thing, we're tough to beat. I don't care who we're playing. I don't care what situation is. We are tough to beat, and it's hard to beat us simply because of what we bring to the table as a group. And what the Thunder are going to bring is relentless defensive pressure from all over the court. They help and recover, help and recover, help and recover, help and recover. The things that Indiana likes to do as far as running up down the court are great. But once the big three get going, which is SGA, Chet, and J-Dub, you're not beating us. You're just not, because once everybody else relaxes, it's over. Hey, John, how you doing, big dog? You're going with Oklahoma City in 6. Pacers fans thinking their team is going to walk on water. Well, they're supposed to, John. If you don't have any confidence, like at the first time we had went to NBA Finals against Miami. The Commander, Randy Wright, and I are there. We're at game 1, and we're sitting there. And like I said before, we're sitting there and we're watching them be passive and we're being aggressive. And we're like, oh, Thunder going to win this game. And everybody around us in our section, this is the first 3 minutes of the game. He and I are sitting there because a lot of times when we're sitting together, we're talking about what's going on in the game, communicating back and forth. And we're sitting there and we're like, oh, yeah, we're going to win this. And there are people looking at us like, what are you talking about? We're like, oh, we're going to win this game because Miami was not aggressive. So he and I just got up, went to the bar and started drinking Crown. We did watch the game, but not a whole lot of it because when we watched it on the monitors at the bar, because it was like, we're going to win this. Game 2, however, that was a completely different game. And we noticed in the first 3 to 5 minutes, oh, they're aggressive. They were going downhill, 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 and we knew we were in trouble. And they just turned on the motors and never turned off. Now, in game 3 or 4, whatever that was, when KD got bumped a little bit and missed that little mid-range jump shot at the on the baseline from 6-8 feet, everybody was was screaming for a foul. Commander and I laughing. We're like, he's young. We were young. We didn't, we had never been there. We didn't know what was going on. KD doesn't miss that shot now. KD doesn't miss that shot 5 years ago. KD wouldn't have missed that shot the year they left in 2016, 2017, whatever it was. He wouldn't have left then. He wouldn't have missed that shot then because he was a veteran and he's used to getting bumped. So there was a huge difference. So that's what we were saying back then. Oh man, we can possibly win this. And then he and the Commander and I looking at each other like, yeah, this is not gonna happen. John Michael Good just hitting 92 in Phoenix. That's the thing. Okay. So the Pacers are supposed to be having confidence in their team, just like we did with the Thunder against the Miami Heat. We had confidence, even though the commander and I both knew deep down we weren't going to win. Even though we won the first game, we're like, if they play like this, we can win. And they went, and that was the end of that. Which I believe is the same thing that Indiana fans or the Pacer fans, you're supposed to feel good about your team. You're supposed to have confidence. But I'm going to say this. If SGA is rolling, and he's on point like he should be or like he has been, then you got J-Dub and Chet doing what they do, playing off of his energy. You're not beating us. You're just not. You're deep, just like we are, like we talked in the beginning of the show about the Pacers bench versus our bench. We talked about that. The Pacers bench is about scoring. The Thunder's bench is about defense and scoring, but defense first. And as I've said, since the playoffs started, before the playoffs started, when we were talking about it, defense travels in team sports. Basketball, football, soccer, hockey, baseball. It travels. It just does. So I saw this thing talking about how the NBA going to let the Thunder be aggressive. Well, yeah. They're not going to change how they are. And that being said, these two teams, I've got people telling me they're going to win in 4. Dude, you're crazy. Here's what I'm telling you. Let me show you the matchups between these two teams, okay? Why I don't think that they're going to be able to win in 4. In fact, let me take a break, and then we're going to come back after we pay some bills, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about this, okay? We'll take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, SRB. If you have needs for engineering, surveying, or planning, hit our guys up. They will love to take care of you. If you have needs, if you have a water treatment plant in your city or county, hit those guys up. They'd love to come back and make sure you have clean drinking water. Oak Road Trucking, if you have needs for dirt, rock, or sand to be moved. Also, if you're demolishing a house and remodeling a house, hey, call those guys out. They can come back up, put that in, take the truck, take all that dirt, all that debris to the dump site for you and get that all handled. So hit my guys up over there. And then, of course, YNB, family owned and operated since 1912. They are the bank that makes things happen. They're an equal housing lender, a member of the FDIC, proud sponsor for us to go out and support women, minority, and black-owned businesses in the Oklahoma City area. You can pre-qualify online at www.ynbok.com. That's www.ynbok.com. Or you can go into the main bank at 401 Elm, 66 steps from historic downtown Yukon, Oklahoma. YNB East, which is off the Parkway and US 66 and 39th Expressway. YNB Mustang, 218 North Mustang Road. YNB Peoples, YNB Parkway, which is off Garth Brooks and I-40. Cannot miss this great place. Just south of I-40 right there in front of the hospital. And then, of course, YNB Peoples located in 23rd and Bethany between Rockwell and MacArthur. And then, of course, the House of Creed, handcrafted since 1760. If you haven't smelled this, you need to go into the Creed store in the Creed counter. If it's Scottsdale, they have the standalone Creed store. If not, go into Penn Square Mall, see my girl Beth, and holler at her. And then remember, at any of these other malls, whether it's Woodland Hills Mall in Tulsa, Town East Mall in Wichita, Oak Park Mall in Overland Park, Kansas, not Missouri, Park Plaza Mall in Little Rock, Arkansas, South Plains Mall in Lubbock, and Westgate Mall in Amarillo. Any of these places, go by to the dealer's locations, tell them you've watched the show, and they will give you some cologne, okay? Go by and watch that. Now, that being said, let's go back and look at these two teams. And that's why I said, don't discount the Pacers and go, oh, we're gonna kill them, blah, 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 blah. No, don't listen to that nonsense. Here's why. The Thunder are 80-18. These stats are including the playoffs. The Pacers are 70-24. They finished 4th in the East. When you look at this, don't discount that. Don't discount that. They beat the number 2 and the number 3 ranked teams in front of them. They beat the number 1 and the number 3 ranked team. So they beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they beat the New York Knicks, which is the 3rd place team. So they're 70-24. Okay, now these stats are offensive stats. They were 1st in scoring, 120.2. We were 4th. Opponents' points per game, we were 2nd at 102 given up. They're 13th, which means their defense is not as good as ours. Clearly, we talked about that. Field goal percentage, Okay? We're 47.9, which was second. They're 50, which is first. Once again, we talked about 3-point percentage, which they're better than us. Okay? They're shooting 37.2. This is for the whole thing. Ours is 36.7, 36.6. Now, they're better than that in the playoffs because their bench is shooting 50%. Remember, they were killing the Knicks. Free throw percentage, first and 13th, which, they missed a lot of free throws. And if they continue to miss free throws down the stretch, that's going to cost them against us. We make free throws down the stretch, 82.4. That's first. And we've been first pretty much the whole year in making free throws. Rebounds, 44.7. We're 13th. 43, they're 16th. So rebounding-wise, both teams are right there close together as far as making free throws. Getting rebounds. Both of them are right there together. And I think we are, 22nd or whatever in offensive rebounds, or 23rd or something like that in offensive rebounds. Assists, we're 12th. They're first. Now remember, we only give up 24.5 free throws, 24.4, 24.5 assists per game. So that's 6 less than what they're accustomed to doing. 11.2 turnovers a game. We're second. 13.5, they're 10th. But that's not that far apart. That's only two turnovers per game more than us. Now, that being said, we average 17 turnovers a game, making the other team commit 17 turnovers a game. That's where we go on the 12-2 runs, 14-3 runs, 17 whatever runs. That's where the Thunder make their bones, is right there in turnovers. We take care of the ball, they take care of the ball. And a lot of that has to do with Hallie having the ball in his hands and not turning the ball over. A lot of it has to do with that. Hey, Angel, Thunder in 5. That's what we're talking about here. That's what we're discussing that right now, the similarities. Steals, we're first. They're 12th, which means we're taking care of the ball. We're still in the ball. They're 12th. Now, what does that mean? That means that it's going to be closer than what you think. Blocks, we're 4th. They're 10th. And so this Thunder sweep and all that, if you look at these stats, it's hard for you to look at it and go, hey, we're going to sweep them. Now, Angel, could we beat them in 5? Yes. Okay, could we beat them in 5? Yes. Do I think it's likely? Probably not. I think it's going to go 6. I think they're good enough to win 2 games. Now, would I love to end up 84 and 18? And if you end up 84 and 18, you're on the short list of the greatest seasons in the history of the NBA as far as teams. Okay, which I think that we have that possibility. But that's where you are. That's the chance. That's where the Thunder have an opportunity to be. Okay, 84 and 18. Now, I think it's going to be more like 84 and 20, possibly 84 and 19, but I'm not going to discount a sweep. I'll take a sweep all day long. If not, to me, it'd be perfect to win Game 5 at home after those of us who have been suffering for 17 years watching the Thunder, to be able to watch them win the finals at home after all this time suffering through everything that we've had to go through to watch them. To me, that's worth every penny. All 17 years is watching that in Game 5. So I would like that. I would like to see that, Angel. But I just don't. I think it's going to be 6. That's just me. I think it's going to be 6. I would love it to be 5. I would love to be sitting there at Game 5 and being able to. And I'm just going to tell the truth. I'd probably break a tear out. Icing on the cake if it's less. I agree, John. But to be considered as one of the top teams ever, based on what the Thunder have done this year, you have to sweep them and go 84 and 18. Because all the greatest teams have lost 14, 17, 16, stuff like that. So to be one of the greatest teams ever, you have to sweep them. Now, you could possibly get away with 19, but you need to sweep them. And I just don't see. Is there a pathway to that? Yes, there is. 100%. There's a pathway. And here's the pathway. Okay, let me show this up here. Here's the pathway to the Thunder sweeping. Because there is a path. I just don't know if it's possible, but there is a pathway to winning it. And this is where it comes, right here. Field goal percentage, we're first. 3-point percentage, we're first. Assists, we're fourth. Remember, they're averaging 30 assists a game. We're 24.1. I was wrong. I thought it was 24.5 or 6. I was wrong. We're at 24.1. That's fourth. Pips, points in the paint, we're first. Steals, we're first and stealing the ball away. Blocks, we're second, not fourth. Turnovers, 17, we're first. Fourth quarter, giving up points in the paint, we're second, 25.9, which is where the game is going to matter. That stat right there at the bottom is where the game is going to matter. 25.9 opponents' points per game in the fourth quarter on average. That's the reason why we are 80-18. That's that right there, along with turning the opposing team over 17 times, along with only averaging 11.6 turnovers, along with taking care of the basketball. Okay, which we only average 6 steals a game against us. Number one, pips, point in the paint. We don't allow a lot of points in the paint. Field goal percentage, we're number one. 3-point percentage, we're number one. Those are the things that make a difference. Now, that being said, here's why I don't think we can beat them in 4. Okay? Game 1 tomorrow night, 7:30 ABC. Sunday, game 2, 7 o'clock ABC. Then look, we don't play again until Wednesday. That's game 3 in Indiana, in Indianapolis. Then you turn around on Friday, you play again in Indianapolis. Now, here's the advantage. We can steal one of these games. Okay? That's the advantage of June 16th, which is Tuesday, I believe. Is that right? No, that's Monday. That's Monday, game 5. That's the game that you could close them out. Because, let's face it, let's take care of business game 1, game 2. Game 3, like I said, what are the most important games? Game 1, game 3, game 5. Game 3, that game, if we're up 2-0, they're not going to be missing threes. They're going to be just like Minnesota was. They're going to be taking care of business. That's where the metal meets the road right there. The 11th and the 13th. Those 2 away games, to me, are going to dictate whether the Thunder sweep, because if we go up 3-0, I think we'll sweep them. But there's the disadvantage. It's 3 days rest. It's not every other day that we've been doing. Thursday, Sunday. That gives them a day of rest. That gives them a day to fix whatever was missing in the second or the game before. That gives you a chance to fix it. So that's the issues that it comes down to, okay? That right there. Now, what does that mean for us? The Pacers are 12-3 right now in the playoffs. The Thunder are 12-4. Now, granted, we gave away a game. I think we gave away 2 against Denver. That's just me. But you let a team stay around long enough, they think they can beat you. So to me, that's been the difference right there. But they're 12-3, and we're 12-4. I look at one thing that really blows me away. Since January 1st, the Thunder are 53-13. They're 46-18. 2 best records in the league. I'm worried about coaching. Rick Carlisle has been there. Dagnall hasn't. I believe they've looked at enough tape, and they've talked to all the Western coaches. They've talked to all the coaches. I promise you, they know how to beat Dagnall and what he does. They know that. And if he sticks to what he's been doing because he's analytical, and I've said this before, these are the things that worry me. You have to put J-Dub on the bench to let SGA do his thing, because he waits till J-Dub goes to the bench, and that's when he just thrives. So you got to do that so you can get an advantage. In the second quarter, here's going to be the issue. Starting the second quarter, starting the fourth quarter. What's going to happen when you have J-Dub, Kaysen, Caruso, Wiggins, and Ihart or Chet? You have no ball handlers. That's when we struggle a little bit, or we don't. But for the most part, we struggle in the beginning because of the lineups that he had, because you don't have a ball handler in that group. J-Dub's not a ball handler. Kayson is not a ball handler. Caruso's not a ball handler. Wiggins is not a ball handler. And Chet or Ihart aren't ball handlers. They're not. They're able to get the ball up the court 100%, but they're not ball handlers. They're not facilitators who set up the offense. That's not what they do. And everybody talks about raves on J-Dub, and I love J-Dub. I'm a huge fan of his. I believe that J-Dub is 2A, 2B. Nathan believes he's 3A. He still thinks Chet is the number 2. And I think that they're both number 2s. One's a 2A, one's a 2B. Tonight, one's a 2A, one's a 2B tomorrow. That's how I look at those two. But neither one of them are number 1. And when you try to put, and that's my thing with Dagnall, when he tries to make J-Dub and SJ on the same level, that's when the Thunder struggle. That's when teams have an advantage and have the opportunity to beat us. When SJ comes in the second quarter, take J-Dub out for 3 minutes. That's all I've said. 3 to 4 minutes, take him out. Let him make that run. Bring him back in. Let him close it out in the second and fourth quarters. Please. If you will do that, we will win. In the fourth quarter especially. If you will do that, we will win. If you don't try to play him until 2 to 3 minutes to go in the first quarter, set him out, take him out to 5-minute mark, no later than 4 minutes. Take him out. Let them make their run. Same thing in the third quarter. Let the Thunder make their run. Take J-Dub out when you bring SJ in for 3 to 4 minutes. That's all I ask you to do in the second and fourth quarter. That's all I ask. We will beat them in 4 if he does that. However, he is not going to do that. He's just not. But they know that, so they're going to attack his coaching staff and his coaching acumen and the way that he approaches. They're going to attack that, I can promise you. They're going to ask Carlisle. They're going to ask all these, or Carlisle's going to ask all these, how do you defend him? What do you do? Where do I have my advantages over this guy? And he's out-coached a coach before. Now, when they beat Miami the first time, because Miami beat us. Remember, the first time Miami went to the finals, they got beat by Dallas. We played Miami the second time, and they beat us. Their second finals back-to-back. He outcoached Spoelstra. Spoelstra was young. But that being said, Dirk Nowitzki was the best player on the court. Along with Jason Kidd. So Dallas had all the things necessary to get a W done, to win, okay? So did he outcoach him? Yes. But, remember J.J. Barrera was guarding LeBron? Remember when KD used to get guarded by Chris Paul? How the hell are you 6'9" and you let somebody a foot shorter than you guard you? No way in hell. You that short on me, I'm posting your ass up and doing a jump hook all night long over you or just pushing you, turn around and dunking on you. All night. You don't put a little dude on me, I'm going to punish you. I'm not going to sit out there and try to facilitate. No. I'm going to back you down. I'm going to catch the ball on the post, and I'm going to turn around and jump over you. Because I know you're not going to block my shot. I'm just going to do a simple little jump hook all night long. Little dude is never going to guard me and never been able to guard me. But that's what happened in that series. He outcoached Spoelstra. Now, Spoelstra has since gotten him back, clearly. But here's the question. Here's the determining factor. Is he going to outcoach Dagnall? Is Carlisle going to outcoach Dagnall? To me, that's the determining factor in this whole series. Is Dagnall going to stick to his guns and try to play J-Dub the same amount of minutes as SJ, maybe 1-2 minutes less, or is he going to play him 5 to 6 minutes less like he did in Game 1 against Minnesota? He played 5 to 6 minutes left. There was no question. We kicked their butt. Then it went 4 minutes. Then it went 2 minutes. Then it went 1 minute, 1 minute. That's what he does. Bro, 5-minute difference between J-Dub and SJ, we win. If he does 5 to 6 minute difference between SJ and J-Dub in playing time, we will sweep them. He's not going to do it. They're going to take advantage of those matchup times. I promise you, they're going to take advantage of it because that's how you do it. That 2, as my guy Mark Long always called him, he's 2 minutes too long. He plays players 2 minutes too long. Like K. Rich the other night against Minnesota. He was playing good. I'm like, okay, good. We got out what we need. I'm take him out now. And he left him in there. Then a couple mistakes later, bam, 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 and they're back. Dude, he did what he do for those 2 minutes. Take his ass out. He gave me what I needed. Take him out. The commander and I used to gripe about that about Stillwater. Same thing. Coach, you take him out. What are you doing? You put your bench players in there. You make a nice little run with them. They get their run. Timeout comes. You take them out. You don't leave them in. You make a different change because that run is gone. And when you try to continue that, those are the things that get you in trouble. That's why he's 2 minutes too long. That's why he doesn't understand the flow of the game. That's why, as my friend Jennifer calls him, He doesn't read the room. He doesn't. He doesn't get it. You have to read the room. You have to understand this is what's happening right now. I've got to make this move, make that adjustment. Now, he was fantastic in Game 5, Game 7, putting Caruso on Jokic. He was fantastic in putting K. Rich on Randall. Fantastic. But the whole point is you can only do that for a certain length of time. Now, the Caruso was completely different. But when you have a bench player who's your 9th or 10th guy and you're playing him 6 or 7, no, you give him a couple minutes, let him do his thing, then bring your guys back in. Let him make his mark. But that's how he is. That's what he does. And I can promise you that Indiana, if you think they haven't researched that, you're crazy. And it's a coaching matchup. It's a chess match. Each game is a different chess move on what you have to do. They're going to know where to exploit us, where not to. And we're hard to exploit. Why? Because, number one, we have the NBA best player. He's getting ready to do something that only Jordan and only 4 other people, 4 people have done this year. Steph Curry, him, Shaq, and I forget Kobe, MVPs and win the tournament and win the title. Now, Kobe did in back-to-back years in 2009, 2010. I believe he was back-to-back MVPs and won the chip when the Lakers went back-to-back, or 10 and 11, whichever it was. But anyway, Kobe's done it. Steph Curry's done it. And who did I just say? I know Michael did it multiple times. So, and that's to be the MVP. So, SGA has a chance to be the scoring title and MVP and win the chip. Those are things that he is sitting in front of him. And if you think he's not focused, if you think he's not looking at that, you're high. Of course he is. If you think that he's not focused on making those things happen, if you think he's not focused on bringing the chip to Oklahoma City, of course he is. But it's going to come down to how the coach plays everybody. And if he continues to think that J-Dub and SGA are the same, they're not. Now, J-Dub, all-star, yes. Second team, all-NBA, all-defensive team, yes. Third team, all-NBA, yes. The only reason why he got second team is because Caruso couldn't make it. He was not going to be in front of Caruso on our defensive team, I can promise you that. But that being said, he still did what he did. But that does not make them the same, Coach. They are not the same player. They are not the same guy. And I've said this before, and I'm going to continue to say it, and I've said it all year. Game 1, we beat Minnesota because he played in 5 to 6 minutes, J-Dub, 5 to 6 minutes less than SGA. We won easily. You're going to do it again if you will do this all the way through the playoffs. If you do that, we'll beat them in 4. If you don't, it's going to be 5 or 6. That's why I said it's going to be 6 games. I don't think he's capable. He's still trying to develop him, and it's not about development. It's about winning the chip. Now, all that being said, let's go to what do we really believe is going to happen. I sincerely believe that it could go 6 games. The shorter the better. I'd be more than happy with that. If you go 4 games, we'll be one of the greatest teams of all time. Now, when you look at what we are and look at the 12.9 versus 12.5, which is the 2 highest winning percentages in the playoffs and in the season in history, that's what the Thunder are. You have that opportunity. You have the opportunity to do things. But if you look at this Pacers team and think they're going to just fall away, you're crazy. They're not going to go away. But the relentless defensive pressure that we can put on them for a complete game is going to be the difference, because what happens is eventually in the fourth quarter, you eventually will make mistakes at some point when when Halliburton is on the bench and you've got Nembhard and you've got T.J. McConnell in there. Those are the things that make a difference. Now, both of those are very good players, and both of them are very tough, and I do believe Nembhard and Chet played together at Gonzaga. So these are things you're going to have to worry about. These are things you're going to have to contend with. They're just there. You're going to have to contend with them. You're going to have to figure out how to make these things work. How do we fix that? And I believe it can get done. So that being said, we're going to have a big show tonight. We're going to try to do the show tonight after the storm, do our pre-Thunder game breakdown tonight. So I'm going to go get some kids and beat our kids up today, because I know all the kids are pumped up. That's all they've been talking about is that. And then also the thing they have been talking about is coming to my basketball camp, which is coming up this coming Monday and Tuesday. Grades 1st through 8th, $160. Scan the QR code to have your kids show up if you're in Oklahoma City. If you're not, you can't. But remember, we only take 20 kids. 25 is the max that we take. And we'll make sure that your kid is doing what he needs to do. And remember, this is a basketball camp. This is not a fun camp. This is not OU, OSU, Thunder camp. This is not what this is. You're going to learn how to play basketball at this camp. It is a basketball camp and our 15th anniversary, and we are going to be handing out special shirts for this camp, one-time only thing. So that being said, hey, everybody have a fantastic day. Enjoy your day. Go out there and have some fun. Play some golf if you can. It's going to be a little wet out there on the golf course, but you'll still be able to get some shots up before the weather hits back again. That being said,